idea that time for change was yesterday. We need to do it now for us to see the change that we seek.
So there's a percentage of Kenyans who want real change, and you can see the GenZs in that group of Kenyans. But our parents are still in the tribal cocoons. Our parents are going to say, Rigathi is a Kikuyu leader, Uhuru Kenyatta, Ruto is a Kalenjin leader, and the likes. That's where the problem is. So if we can be able to convince our parents that for once, don't vote for tribe, vote for values, then that may change. But it's going to take a lot of work. But you have to realize that in 2013, when this government came to power, they banned NGOs that were doing civic education. So we've had about 13 years of no civic education. So we have to now become the civic educators and actually educate Kenyan people about why an MCA matters and why tribe is not important when it comes to voting. Because at the end of the day, when I get sick, I go to the hospital. I don't go look for a Luya or Kikuyu doctor. I go and ask for a doctor. When I get into a matatu, I don't ask the tribe of the matatu conductor or the driver. I just want a matatu.
Yeah.
But when it comes to voting, we are very particular about what tribe is that person. Do they represent my community? But you know, these people don't represent your community. They represent their interests. They just happen to become from your community because when they steal, they don't steal for you. They steal for themselves. There's no one who's ever stolen money and then they brought it to the community. But this thing about muzi wetu, kabila yetu is a very big problem. So you have to detribalize the vote for us to change this country.
The economy cannot be ignored. It's very clear that a lot of the things that people complain about, you can have a direct straight line back to the economy. Whether we talk about, not being able to provide proper health care, of course, the economic factors where money may have been misappropriated. But everything circles around an economy. Kenya doesn't have a revenue problem. Kenya has an expenditure problem. Kenya has a non-manufactural issue whereby you're not building anything, so you can't sell anything, you can't make a profit. An economy runs on profit making. It's very clear. It's not by the prayers of anybody. It is you create something, you sell it for profit, you make money, you run the economy. That's why MSMEs function.
True. Yeah.
You can't do that if you have a huge amount of debt.
True.
Kenya has a 12.4 trillion shilling debt problem. And pundits have said that if you're not dealing with a debt issue, then you're not looking towards how you're going to solve the problem. Do you agree with that? And if that's the case, how would that be dealt with?
So I agree with that. But if you have to service debt, we can negotiate debt. We can either default and say we cannot afford to pay and say do what you're going to do. Or we say, you know what, let's renegotiate the debt and say, how do we stagger it longer? But for you to be able to do that, you also need to be able to say, I'm going to generate more income for the people. How do you do that? Kenya has the highest expensive power in the region. We need to actually have affordable energy, because if you have enough affordable energy, you have people manufacture, people set up industries. Kenya has we have independent power generators who are charging us even for power not consumed. We have a problem with us transporting the energy to where it's needed. So basically, the economy is surviving on by luck. There's no deliberate effort to ensure that we're creating more jobs by ensuring that there's affordable energy. You made it ease of doing business for people to be able to open business. That 47 counties, how do we get 47 industries in those 47 counties? How do we ensure that pyrethrum, cotton, sisal is back? How do we decide, you know what, if sugarcane is not working, how do we legalize marijuana and have hemp? It's hemp, right? Hemp. Yes, sorry, hemp. Hemp is
it's hump day. It's Wednesday.
It's Wednesday.
How do we ensure that you can have medicinal hemp? Therefore, it can be used for medicine. It can be used for cooking oil. It can be used for so many other things. There's an entire industry to be unlocked. Western could be the hemp belt of this country. If you're selling miraa and we have no problem with miraa, there should not be a problem of doing medicinal marijuana. It's the backbone of Colorado. The entire Colorado state relies on marijuana. We can do that. So basically, there's lack of thinking in how we can actually expand our economy, and that's why we're just relying on overtaxation to service those debts. But we can be able to grow economy by opening up all other industries that are locked. The blue economy, we have fish, that we sell at cheaply, or we allow Chinese trawlers to come and just take everything from us. You go to Lake Victoria, our fish, there's no storage.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many things that we can address. Nyandarua, there's potatoes, but they can't reach Eldoret. There's the problem. Yeah.
So, Boni, I want to look at, you want to become president.
Yes.
And you becoming president, then one would look at other leaders that would be in your party to be in parliament, and other like-minded leaders that would help your cause be better. In the political space right now, have you identified individuals that you're willing to work with to rescue the country, in that Kenya, that leadership that you want to be in? Are you looking to work with others?
I am willing to work with others, and I've been in conversation with some people. My only concern is that they feel like we cannot win without the old political guards. That is the problem. They feel like we must be able to work with some people who are very dirty, who are very corrupt, who will just make us as corrupt as them. And I feel like we need to believe in ourselves. I have said this, that there's a path to the presidency, that if we collectively work together, we can get the GenZ votes, and we can get the 8 million young people who did not vote in the last election. That's enough to get us elected. But these people feel like we need the financial muscle of the old guards who intend to jail when you get into power. And there lies the problem, because that's when you see people going all over the country and they're doing big rallies and all that, there's financial backers who are saying, let me put my money on this guy, because come 2027, when there's change of government, people demand for blood and for people going to jail. But because they funded this man, he'll not jail me. And so that's why I'm staying away from those, if those convoys of people who I think they have an idea that you can fix this country, but your backers are the problem, and the people that you must jail when you get into power.
They're saying that if you want to be wealthy, if you want to be rich, go start business, but depend on government to create an environment where it's conducive for you to do this business. That you need to then make sure that the process for doing business makes sense, that somebody can come in as an investor or whatever the case may be, and you create the framework for that. The job of government is in the creation of the laws and to make sure. So you have members of parliament, you have those who sit in your lawmaking bodies, and then that's where the real work is. Should people be focused? I mean, you alluded to that. Talk about your MCA, the very basic level of governance. But the work that needs to be done is right there at Parliament to ensure that this environment then is created. I want to look at the importance of the vote when it comes to who you are actually putting in a position that is going to make and protect the law. And also protect the money, because that's where the rubber meets the road. How important is that attention to be set?
I think a member of parliament is one of the most key positions in this country, because that's where they do legislation, they do oversight. They are like your watchman. They watch the coffers. They're able to. They can even summon any cabinet secretary. They can impeach the president. But Kenyans do not see that. They don't see that role, because we made a mistake by giving members of parliament CDF. Because now they've stopped focusing on legislation. They're dishing out bursaries and building fences in police station and just doing things that they're not supposed to do. The money that is in CDF should go back to government. Let government do education. Let members of parliament just focus on their job, legislation and oversight, and becoming the people's watchdog. So, when I get elected, when I get elected, we shall get rid of CDF. Totally. There should not be CDF. No money going to. It is already legal.
And give it to whom?
The money goes to the government. There's no. You don't need to give politicians money to give handouts. That money is the one that is giving politicians money to give bursaries to goons kids, so that these goons can be called on. They can be on call and being given to border goons. This money, every year, a member of parliament has about 50 million shillings. No, 200 million shillings actually. Every year, an MP has 200 million to spend on bursaries. Where's an MP issuing bursaries? That's not their job. So remove that money from there. Number two, remove lower salaries of members of parliament to at least maybe lower it by 30 to 40 or even 50%. Even parliamentarians, cabinet secretaries, and even presidents. Lower that salaries by the. So